Our service will be officiated by Reverend Shinsho Hata, Deacon Juho Kirkpatrick, Deacon Jigaku Takenochi, and from Kona Daifukuji Temple, Reverend Jiko Nakade and Deacon Jikai Nakade. They will help the service. Reverend Jiko Nakade is today's guest speaker, so thank you very much for your participation. Before we start the service, I'll explain about Obon. So Obon is from Sanskrit ulabana, suggests great suffering. So as the full term translates into hanging upside down. Obon and the Buddhist legend it stems from recall a disciple of Buddha who used supernatural abilities to look upon his deceased mother. When the disciple saw that his mother had fallen into the realm of hungry ghosts and was suffering, he asked Buddha how he could help her. The disciple made offerings to Buddhist monks who had just completed their summer retreat, and soon after he saw his mother released from the realm of hungry ghosts. With his newfound insight, the disciple suddenly saw the true nature of his mother, her selflessness and the sacrifices she had made for him. And with extra joy, he danced what is now the Bon Odori. A primary purpose of Obon is to ease the suffering of deceased loved ones while expressing joy for the sacrifices loved ones have made. During today's service, please show your gratitude to your departed loved ones and ancestors. So we begin now with starting bell. You may be seated for Sasen.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, we're gonna have zazen for 1 minute. Please put your hands together in Dasho and bow. Thank you very much.
So now is Vandana Tisarana. We have on the screen here, if you're watching the live stream, it's page 17 in the Green Book.
Thank you.
Uhatsu, purification of the ritual bell, drum, and cymbals.
On this 25th day of July, in the year 2021, at Taishoji Soto Mission in Hilo, Hawaii, we observe the Obon Memorial Seiji service. In harmony and peace, we recite the sutras and offer flowers, candlelight, food, and incense to the Buddhas and the spirits of the Dharma world. To those who have loved and who have passed on before us, we fondly express our love, appreciation, and respect. We dedicate the merits of our offerings to all deceased members and ancestors of this temple, and to all beings in the Dharma world. We pray for tranquility and repose of those who have passed on before us, and vow to truly live the precious lives we have received. On this special day in July, a compassion flower under the skies for joyful remembrance. We go to the Buddha for guidance. We go to the Dharma for guidance. We go to the Sangha for guidance. Namu Kyi, Namu Kyi Ho, Namu Kyi So.
Now we have Obon de Goasan on video. We also have, during the video, an offering of flowers and incense by representatives of different groups of the temple.
Ah
我がこの時期を 八母大道行東来にざぶして長く大天な先にどうるものはちかて愛度脱線ことまた願わくは汝ら昼夜五条に我を擁護し我が諸願を満全こと願わくはこの時期を施す諸々の功徳あまねくもて北海の右上にえせしもろもろの右上と平等具ならもろもろの右上と共に同じくこの福をもことごとくもって信用北海無常母大一切父に栄光して願わくは速やかに成仏し横までことなからんの海の元時願わくはこの方に乗じて徳成仏することへぼぼぼりがりたりたたがたやおんぼてりがたりたたがたいのまくさらばたたがたばろきておんさんばらさんばらのまくそろばやたたがたやたにゃたおんそろそろはらそろはらそろそうかのまくさんなんだぼだなんばなむたほう如来のぼばがばてあらぼだあらたんのやたたがたい助見とんご福地円満南無妙識真如来のぼばがばてそろばやたらやたたがたや修路行円満倉庫南無甘露如来のぼばがばてやみりてやらんじゃやたたがたい観光新人領事家楽南無紅白新如来のぼばがばてリホラがたらやたたがたや陰高高大四時期十母南無理不意如来のぼばがばてやばれんがらやたたがたい空実上囲碁奇襲音棒で知ったほだはだやみ音棒で知ったほだはだやみ音棒で知ったほだはだやみ音さんまやさとば音さんまやさとば音さんまやさとば音さんまやさとば音さんまやさとばノーマクさらばたたがたなんもんびほらがらべまにはらべたたたにたしゃにまにまにそはらべびまれしゃがらげんびれうんねんじんばらじんばらぼだびろきてくがちしゅたぎゃらべそわおんまにまじれうんおんまにだれうんがおんなぼがべよしゃのまかぼだらまにはんどまじんばらはらばりはやう大神がらに
Buddha turns the Dharma wheel, and reality is shown in all its many forms. All sentient beings are awakened and brought to great joy and peace. We sincerely seek the beneficent guidance of the three treasures. In observing the Obon service, we have recited Ahi Shingarani, Andromon, and Shaidaimon, offered flowers, food, candlelight, and incense. We offer the merit generated thereby to
the merit generated by Betty Abe is dedicated to Hazumi Abe, Inao Tanaka, Kinuko Tanaka. The merit generated by Yukiko Aoki is dedicated to Futoshi Aoki, Kazue Tanimoto, Takao Ide, Naoko Ide. The merit generated by Roy Rabin Daimaru is dedicated to Su Daimaru, Toshio Daimaru. The merit generated by Barbara Fujimoto is dedicated to Violet Hirata, Takeshi Hirata, Karen Kadota, Yoshio Okino, Masako Okino. The merit generated by Florence Fujioka is dedicated to Rhino Toshikazu Fujioka. The merit generated by Catherine Fujioka is dedicated to Fujioka family ancestors, Fukuda family ancestors. The merit generated by Yaeko Fujiwara is dedicated to Umetsu family, Fujiwara family, Shimizu family, Hayabusa family, Takasaki family. The merit generated by Tatsuyuki and Rena Fukuda is dedicated to Fukuda family ancestors, Ige family ancestors. The merit generated by Kiku Furukawa is dedicated to Kiyono Shimizu, Stella Sasabe, Shigeru Shimizu, Furu Shigeyoshi Shimizu, Kiyoshi Shimizu. The merit generated by Paula Paraga Tsuchiya is dedicated to Kazuo Tsuchiya, Nobuko Tsuchiya. The merit generated by Jane Hasegawa is dedicated to Miwa Hasegawa, Kingoro Hasegawa, Kimie Hasegawa, Tadashi Hasegawa, Kuraichiro Takumi Hasegawa. The merit generated by Kinue Ito is dedicated to Kimi Ito, Shunji Ito, Darrell Ito, Gail Rosario. The merit generated by Sari Ito is dedicated to Junzo Suzuki, Sada Suzuki. The merit generated by Takashi and Helen Izumo is dedicated to Nobuyuki and Tamiko Izumo, Waichi and Makiyo Shibata. The merit generated by Alice Kaneko is dedicated to T. Kaneko ancestors, K. Kutsunai ancestors. The merit generated by Howard and Ann Kawabata is dedicated to Kawabata family ancestors, Sato family ancestors. The merit generated by Kusakori is dedicated to Miyoshi Onuma, Harue Onuma, Omura family ancestors, Ogawa ancestors. The merit generated by Lane and Elvin Machida is dedicated to Hoshina Fuji, Richard and Fuji, Kazue Fuji, Noel Machida. The merit generated by Tetsuo Matsubara is dedicated to Tetsuka family, Inada family, Monden family, Yoneishi family, Akazawa family. The originated by Linda Matsushita, dedicated to Tsunekazu Matsushita, Nobue Matsushita. The originated by Ilen Miura, dedicated to Honma family ancestors, Miura family ancestors. The originated by Yoshie, Toshie Miyazaki, dedicated to Taeko Miyazaki, Takeo Miyazaki, Satsue Yoshizawa, Miyazaki family ancestors, Fusei family ancestors. The originated by Shaolin Miyazu, dedicated to Akira Shimizu, Tsuyuko Shimizu, Juzo Umetsu, Natsuyo Umetsu, Samuel Shimizu. The originated by Cynthia Morris, dedicated to Kenneth Kimoto, Sueko Kimoto. The originated by Chieko Nakayama, dedicated to Takeo Nakayama. The originated by Rodney and Edith Nishino, dedicated to Nishino family, Onuma family. The originated by Paul Ogata, dedicated to Yoshiko and Ogata, Manabu Ogata, Ogata family, Katano family. The originated by Joanne Ohama, dedicated to Stella Sasabe, Richard Sasabe, Kiyono Shimizu, Bruce Shimizu, Tatsue Tsue. The originated by Ronald Onoue, dedicated to Oda family, Onoue family, Umezu family. The originated by Masayoshi and Jane Onuma, dedicated to Masaburo and Moto Onuma family ancestors, Haruo and Utako Yamada family ancestors. The originated by Blaine Oyama, dedicated to Katsuko Oyama, Yoshinori Oyama, Toshio Oyama. The originated by Blake Shigi, dedicated to Tsuneo Shigi, Ellen Shigi. The originated by Tomie Shigi, dedicated to Yukio Shigi, Aiko Shigi, Jitsuo Shigi, Sada Shigi. The originated by Yoshiro Soma, dedicated to Soma family. The originated by Yoko Suzuki, dedicated to Suzuki family, Abe family, Onuma family. The originated by Walter Tachibana, dedicated to Tachibana family ancestors, Sato family ancestors, Ichinose family ancestors, Marumoto family ancestors, Tanimoto family ancestors. The originated by Daniel Takahashi, dedicated to Takahashi family ancestors, Abe family ancestors. The originated by Naomi Tamashiro, dedicated to Kenji Omuro, Majiti Omuro. The originated by Albert Watanabe, dedicated to Braki Watanabe, Nobue Watanabe. The originated by Naoshi Watanabe, Kimie Watanabe, dedicated to Keishi Watanabe family, Kiheiji Niyo Fusei family. The originated by Taeko Yamashita, dedicated to Yamashita family ancestors, Yamamoto family ancestors. The originated by Hiromu and Ellen Yamauchi, dedicated to Yamauchi family ancestors, Ito family ancestors. The originated by Lindy Oneishi, dedicated to Mildred Sato, Bob Sato, Melvin Sato. The originated by Tomiko Yoshimura is dedicated to Torajiro Yoshimura family, Fujigusu Nakai family, Tatsumi Sakai family.
From our hearts we pray that all beings be guided by the Buddha's teachings and awaken to deep wisdom. May we, in our wholeness, realize the way of the Buddha together.
Once more, we have the Kuhatsu, the purification ritual with the bell, drum, and cymbal.
Okay.
Now we will sing the song of Obon with Reverend Hata and Mr. Daniel Takahashi. They both play ukulele.
Please rise.
Please rise, and the words are on the screen.
We gather together in Buddha's temple night. arigato. Home is a time for family and friendship. Honor life on this earth. We dance to the music to honor our ancestors. Time no more is home to us again. Long is a time to remember our loved ones. Long is a time for say arigato. Long is a time for family and friendship. Honor life on this earth. We practice the teachings with complete devotion, love and compassion to guide us through the day. Long is a time to remember our loved ones. Long is a time to say arigato. Long is a time for family and friendship. Honor life on this earth.
Thank you. Sounds good. Next is Dharma Message by Reverend Jiko Nakade. But before her Dharma message, I'll introduce today's guest speaker. Reverend Jiko Nakade is a local Kona girl who grew up attending services at Taishoji Soto Mission and who graduated from Kona Waena High School in 1978. Her interest in Buddhism and other world religions led her to majoring in world religions at the University of Hawaii at Manoa and to studying Zen Buddhism at Komazawa University, a Soto Zen university in Tokyo, Japan. A graduate of the Hawaii Soto Shu Minstrel Training Program. She's been serving as Daifukuji Soto Mission's 12th resident minister since 2004. She enjoys spending time with family, sangha, and her 4-month-old puppy, Michi. She helped our Bon dance service, and the Hatsu Bon service today. And her daughter, Deacon Amy Nakade, also came here today. So thank you so much for your participation. Yoroshiku onegai itashimasu.
Good morning, everyone. Ohayo gozaimasu. Gozaimasu. It's so wonderful to be here at Taishoji Soto Mission. Although I miss seeing some of the long-time members who are no longer here to greet us when we arrive. They're in my heart today. But Reverend Kata, Deacon Juho, Deacon Jigaku, Taishoji friends, thank you for inviting my family and me to join your service today. We treasure the loving bonds between our temples and between our sanghas. As you know, the coronavirus pandemic has presented all of us with many challenges and in some cases obstacles. And people have suffered from isolation, depression, anxiety, and fear. And we must still be cautious. Again, there are no bone dances this year. Oh, but this morning, when my family had an early breakfast before we left Kona, we watched Taishoji's virtual Obon celebration on my iPad. So, congratulations, that was wonderful. We have Hato Sensei's blessing and people dancing out there, and of course, Taishoji Taiko, always so dynamic. So, yeah, otsukaresama deshita. It was such a nice celebration. I'm glad that you made that possible. We've been very quiet at Daikukuji in Kona, except for our Obon service. It's been another quiet Obon season. But we did have a cemetery cleanup where young and old together scrubbed the graves at the cemetery behind the temple. And that was our way this year of honoring our ancestors. So I'm grateful for everyone's love, patience, and support. And thank you for being here and for supporting Taishoji Soto Mission. In our Japanese Buddhist tradition, Obon offers us an opportunity to think about our ancestors by coming to the temple, chanting the sutras, and dedicating the merit to our departed loved ones, and through traditional rituals which we physically engage in during the season of Obon. Rituals such as cleaning the family altar in our homes, hanging up these beautiful shochin paper lanterns, preparing food offerings, visiting our family graves, offering incense and flowers. Through these rituals, we are given the opportunity to connect or reconnect with our ancestors. To me, Obon is a bridge which connects each one of us to our departed loved ones, to our family and spiritual ancestors. And this is significant. We may ask, why is this connection to our ancestors important? Whether we are aware of it or not, our ancestors are still present in our lives. They are present in our very bodies, in the cells of our bodies, in our hearts and minds, and in our consciousness. How they lived, the love and blessings they shared, the suffering they experienced during their lifetime, as well as the suffering they may have caused, their virtues, their imperfections, their thoughts, words, and deeds, all still affect how each one of us is living today. Their physical bodies are no longer present, but they live on. They live within us, their descendants. Do you look at your face in the mirror when you brush your teeth or comb your hair in the morning? Do you look at your hands, your posture, your mannerisms, your words, your utterances? Who do you see when you look in the mirror? You say, "Hello, Mom, I see you. Hello, Dad, I see you. Hello, Uncle Bill. Hello, Grandma and Grandpa." You may have died, but you still live on in me. These days when it's chilly, I like to wear a vest because I have to carry my face mask everywhere, and so the vest has pockets. And a very kind Daikuji member made me a couple of very nice vests with pockets for my cell phone and my face mask. But when I put on the vest and I look in the mirror, I see my Obachan. I see my grandma. She used to always wear vests, and now I think I am my grandma. So I look at how I'm living, and And in doing so, I see my mother. Because my mother was always so dedicated, like many of you are, to the temple. Always taking care of people, friends, sangha, at the temple and serving as best as she could. So my mother lives on in me. I was very much influenced by my mother to take this Buddhist path. So you see, our ancestors are not far away. They're right here now in our very being, in our very bodies. And in a way, in a deep way, we have also inherited not just their joy and happiness, but we have inherited their pain and suffering, the traces left by the lives they lived. In the past, I talked about one of my grandfathers. And today I would like to talk about him again because as each year passes, I realize more and more how connected I am to this grandfather whom I had never ever met. My grandfather on my father's side died well before I was born. So for a long time, I thought that I had no connection with him whatsoever because I had no memory of him. His name was Kanesaburo Oshima, and he died in an internment camp during World War II in a place far away from Kona where he had been living, where he ran a family business, far away from his wife and their 11 children, from whom he was suddenly separated the night Pearl Harbor was bombed. He was killed on May 12, 1942, shot in the back of his head by a sentry in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Inside this internment camp, as he walked in a daze, unarmed toward a barbed wire fence, saying that he wanted to go home. He wanted to go home to Hawaii, to see his family, to see his children. My father, the eldest in this family, never told me how my grandfather died. And because my father died when I was just 9 years old, I never had the opportunity to ask him about our family history. So for the longest time, I wasn't aware that I had any connection to this grandfather whom I had never met. But as an adult, and actually only in recent years, did I come to realize that my grandfather has been in my consciousness all along, buried but alive, present. For as long as I can remember, a portrait of him was hung on my family's living room wall, and I had grown up looking at the face of a man I had never met, of a grandfather I had never met. A man who had emigrated from Nagano Prefecture, Japan to Hawaii. And in this portrait on my living room wall, I saw a man whose eyes showed a lot of kindness and gentleness, but also a very deep sadness. My parents had also placed a photo of him on our family altar, in front of which we sat and offered sticks of incense morning and evening. And even after my father died, my mother and I continued to visit my grandparents' graves at Daifukuji once a month. We offered anthuriums, fruits, and incense every month. And the name Kei Oshima was there, engraved on my grandfather's headstone. Yet for many years, I had no idea who he was. I did know his story, how he had lived and how he had died. So I really thought I had no connection to this unknown grandfather. However, in my adult years, my family's history, the story of my grandfather's life became known to me through various sources. One of my uncles shared his memories of his father and the tragic ending to his life. And the previous minister of Daifukuji, who has also passed away, the late Bishop Yokue Matsuura, was there in the same internment camp with my grandfather. And while he was still alive, he gathered my family together and he told us the story of my grandfather and how he had died or been killed in this internment camp. So this grandfather, whose portrait I had looked at day after day as a child, suddenly became alive. And I became aware of this invisible thread still connecting me to this grandfather. The thread had been there all along, but now I could see it, I could feel it connecting us. I knew that my grandfather and I had a deep karmic connection. I began to feel his love for his family and the painful separation from them which he experienced. I felt grief over his violent death and began to understand that there really is something called transgenerational trauma and that it's real. As an invisible thread within a family, trauma can be passed from one generation to the next. So every year at Obon, it's as if a bridge appears in front of me, an arch like a rainbow. And I start walking across this bridge toward my ancestors, my mother, my father, my grandparents, all of them. And in my mind's eye, I see them walking toward me to cross this rainbow bridge. I offer prayers for them. I thank them. I thank the Buddha and all my spiritual ancestors for the Dharma, the teachings which guide and sustain my life every day. In a book entitled Zen Seeds, Zen no Tane, authored by a distinguished Soto Zen female teacher in Japan named Reverend Shundo Aoyama, these words are written, and I'd like to share her words with you. In relation to our ancestors, we are like the apex of a pyramid. The levels of the pyramid are ever widening toward its base. This ever widening base represents past generations of our ancestors. Our present existence is the sum of all they did, and we are the starting point for our descendants. All that our ancestors did reflects us, and all that we do reflects on both our ancestors and our descendants. One's life is not entirely one's own. It contains the past and conceives the future, and should therefore be lived with great care. Reflecting on my life in this way, I feel a deep responsibility, a responsibility to live with mindfulness and care, knowing that each one of my thoughts, my words, my actions makes an impact on those around me, on my spouse, my children, my friends, my sangha, the people with whom I interact in my community every day. Kind thoughts lead to kind words and kind actions, which lead to the well-being and happiness of self and others. Negative thoughts lead to harmful words and harmful actions, which affect those around us, causing pain, sorrow, and confusion. Our ancestors were not perfect human beings, and we ourselves are not perfect human beings. Thus, we must look at others and ourselves with eyes of compassion, like the Bodhisattva Kanno. At the same time, we must understand our lives are not solely our own. Looking deeply, there is no such thing as my life, because my life is intertwined, interwoven with your life and your life and your life. We are all so connected. Buddha's teachings offer us a path of transformation. The pain and suffering which we carry can be transformed into peace and happiness and and well-being. We do not have to transmit our trauma, our suffering to the next generation. Our Buddhist practice of sitting in silence in Zazen and looking deeply into ourselves is transformative. As my talk comes to a close, please look at these delicate threads that are hanging from the chochin, from these beautiful paper lanterns that are kind of swaying in the breeze. There are many beautiful threads hanging from these paper lanterns, which move when the breeze blows. These lanterns symbolically light the path for your ancestors and departed loved ones to return home to you. Perhaps these threads are there to remind us of the connections that we have still with our departed loved ones. Connections that are strong and evident, and connections still waiting to be discovered. Please take care, and I wish you all a very safe and peaceful season of Obon. Thank you so much for having my family and me here at Taishoji. I appreciate your presence. Namu Kie Risi, Namu Kie Ho, Namu Kie So. We take refuge in the Buddha. We take refuge in the Dharma. We take refuge in our Sangha. Thank you very much.